Before starting, Naito informs them there's one more crucial rule and proceeds to show them 2 Celeste balls, explaining they need them to reach the goal. With that, he throws the balls deep into the forest and warns that if they reach the goal without one, it won't count as a victory. Yuji points out there are only 2 balls, even though they are 7 guys, and Ikari then questions if they'll have to fight each other for them. Naito clarifies that due to their number, he'll divide them into 3 groups this time. The first group will consist of Homare, Shiki, and Jin, although Shiki isn't exactly thrilled to discover he'll be partnering with the ever-grumpy Jin. The second group will be Ikari and Yuji, and the third will be Rokuro and Kuina. Naito clarifies that the second and third groups will only get 1 ball, which means they'll have to fight for it, and at least 3 people will be eliminated. He will enter 15 minutes after they do, so they must search for the ball during that time. Before starting, Shiki states he doesn't want to be with the weirdo with the mask, but Naito gently warns him he'll be expelled if he doesn't comply. Obviously, this stops his complaints immediately, and Homare introduces herself to him, saying she'll be careful not to be a nuisance. Shiki is completely paralyzed, as since he's been a vandal since childhood, it's no surprise that girls never approach him. Half the channel really felt that in that moment. After so many years, a girl has finally spoken to him, and his first instinct is to protect her at all costs. Oh my god! Homare gets nervous hearing that and clarifies it's not needed, as she'll try not to be a nuisance. Shiki is simply charmed by how modest she is, but Jin completely ignores her when she tries to introduce herself, making her cry. Homare immediately apologizes for speaking to him, being so insignificant, and says she'll dig a hole and bury herself in it. Shiki gets angry at Jin for making her cry and quickly comforts Homare, telling her that if she keeps crying, she'll ruin that beautiful face. Her face is pretty when she cries, but more so when she smiles. Homare stops crying, asking him not to call her cute, yet this only reinforces his idea that she truly is. So, Shiki urges they work together, just the 2 of them, to win. After that, he taunts Jin, saying he's finished, but Jin tells him to stop messing with him, as it seems he's just seeking attention. Jin assumes from the start that Shiki will lose and tells him if he's going to be eliminated, he should just leave before something worse happens. Shiki flatly refuses, saying he has a goal, so it's impossible for him to give up. To this, Jin responds that it's surely just foolishness, but this causes Shiki's demeanor to change entirely, clearly offended. Naito stops them before someone pulls out a machete, asking how much more time they plan to waste, because Group 1's test has begun. Shiki and Jin immediately enter the forest, with Homare following close behind, quickly losing sight of them. Jin advances with the sole aim of killing Naito, to join the unit he wants and fulfill his goal, but he's suddenly attacked by Shiki, who demands he retract his earlier statement, because his goal isn't foolish. Hearing this, Jin comments that it's true the number of balls is limited, so it doesn't matter if they tear each other to pieces. Taking off his mask, he reveals a bunch of stitches around his mouth, but Shiki tells him that those who show off their scars are usually weak. Jin simply takes off his gloves and rolls up his sleeves, revealing more stitches on his hand and arm. Without hesitation, he opens one of his stitches, allowing his Oni blood to flow. He then deftly manipulates it, activating his blood eclipse release, transforming it into sharp saws around his arm. Shiki is taken aback that he can achieve that with such ease, yet Jin merely questions why he cannot, urging him to flee immediately. This only makes him angrier, so Shiki refuses and exclaims that if he gives up, then his father will have died for something stupid. Learning that he has come to avenge his father, Jin's expression darkens completely, as he says that if that's the case, then they will never understand each other. Shiki clarifies that he has no intention of understanding him, then bites his finger and makes his blood flow too. However, no matter how hard he tries, he can't manipulate his blood like he did before and doesn't understand why he can't. Jin pressures him, saying it's pointless to continue, so he must make his time count. Shiki, frustrated, doesn't know why he can't manipulate his blood. He thought it would appear if he willed it. But what bothers him most of all is that Jin can do something that he can't. Jin gets ready to attack, saying that at least he'll serve as a warm-up before he kills that teacher. Shiki takes a combat stance, brandishing a branch to defend himself. It's better than nothing, he figures, knowing he'll have to forcibly discover if he can truly grow stronger or not. The best way to learn, if you ask me. Soon they both launch into an attack, but in just 1 second, the saws emerging from Jin's arm cleanly slice through Shiki's branch. And what did he expect? A whole tree left him paralyzed. This guy could rip him apart. Meanwhile, Homar searches the forest, getting startled by the falling tree, not knowing what caused it. As she walks fearfully, she accidentally trips on a branch, greeting the ground with her face. This just makes her depressed, and she thinks she shouldn't have come, because this is no place for a worthless woman like her. But Homar cheers up when she remembers Shiki said he would help her, only to get even more depressed when she realizes that's how a useless person who always depends on others thinks. But putting that aside, she decides to head toward that he needs behind him. Back with Shiki, shortly after the fight starts, he takes a solid hit to the face and realizes just how strong Jin really is. He still doesn't get why he can use blood manipulation that way, plus their styles are completely different. But the same thing happens with the professor's blood, which makes him wonder why that is. Firstly, he still barely understands the true meaning of blood manipulation. That doubt causes him to drop his guard momentarily, allowing Shiki to land another facial blow that knocks him to the ground. Shiki's on the ground, shocked by that hit. It was a solid blow, and for the first time, he knows the frustration of not comprehending. Jin is disappointed that he didn't even use his blood, so he decides to just leave him there, considering the fight over. However, before Jin could leave, Shiki slowly got up and asked him to wait a moment. Jin gets annoyed, and then suddenly he launches a huge blood chainsaw to knock Shiki out, but Homar shows up and intervenes, getting right in the attack's path at that exact moment. Without hesitating, Shiki jumps and slices it out of the way in an instant, getting a cut on his arm in the process. He shrugs it off and scolds Jin for how dangerous that was, but Homar gets very upset when she notices his arm was injured. She collapses to the ground and starts to repeatedly ask for forgiveness, saying she's so sorry he got hurt because of her. Shiki tells her it's nothing to worry about and quickly says it has nothing to do with her, since it was all that bastard Jin's fault. Despite this, Homar is still extremely upset and remorseful, so she starts to cry blood and says the only way to ask for forgiveness is to die. Shiki doesn't understand why she wants to apologize so badly, but at that moment Homar's blood transforms into a huge humanoid figure almost as tall as the trees. Even Jin is surprised to see this. Oni have more blood than humans, but this is truly abnormal. It's just too much. And to make matters worse, Homar tells them to flee as quickly as possible, or else she'll kill them, referring to the humanoid blood form that's now protecting her. On the other hand, Naito is waiting in the distance when the school director suddenly appears, remarking that he thought today was solely for the school presentation. Naito explains that instead of wasting a day on explanations, he finds it more useful for them to train and die. The director acknowledges his kindness, knowing all he does is for the students' good. Each year many Oni are slain, but the majority are innocent children, murdered simply for their Oni ancestry. Others are abducted alive to be used as research subjects, then one day abruptly they're killed without ever comprehending their fate or what transpired. He can't help but think about how they must feel at the end of their lives, and he just hopes that there's at least a paradise where everyone is equal. Naito tells him that paradise isn't necessary because if they're strong they won't die. It's that simple. The director again mentions his kindness, and before leaving, asks him to make them strong. Back with Shiki, he barely dodges one of the attacks from Homar's Blood Titan. Jin tries to attack it but gets sent flying with a single slap, which makes it clear that it's too big for him. Shiki asks Homar if she can stop it, but she just keeps apologizing, saying she can't do anything. Homar loses her strength and faints right after that, leading Shiki to believe she has already lost too much blood. He tries to get closer to move her away from there, but the Titan protects her with its arms, which makes Jin wonder if the blood has its own will. And suddenly the Titan vomits a massive amount of blood, wiping out everything around it. Homar regains consciousness for a moment, opening her eyes to ask the Titan to stop, but as she does, for some reason she calls it Little Sister. Once again she tells them to run, but Shiki gets up from the ground and says he can't. If he leaves her there in that state, she'll soon bleed out and die. He recently learned that watching someone die in front of him is just too depressing, so he doesn't want to go through that again. Besides, it looks like she's in a lot of pain, so he can't just leave her like this. The Blood Titan suddenly launches a powerful sonic attack, reaching the forest outskirts and confusing everyone else. Meanwhile, Naito watches everything from a distance, knowing that the Titan is the product of Homar's Blood Eclipse release, so he wants to see how they handle this. Shiki keeps trying to manipulate his blood, but no matter what, he doesn't get why it isn't working. Naito knows it won't work. Blood manipulation is a feat so difficult it only succeeds once in 100 tries, which is why he says Shiki was just lucky the first time. Suddenly the Blood Titan tries to crush him with its hand, forcing Shiki to dodge at the last second. The Titan then grabs portions of the Earth's crust, launching them as projectiles and hitting its targets directly. Shiki's frustrated, realizing it's not about strong or weak, he's just incompetent. He'd never lost a fight before, but then his father was killed, and even now he can't do anything. This makes him cry out of helplessness, believing he's weak now, but he never knew being weak was so pathetic and frustrating. Seeing his tears, Jin tells him to go cry somewhere else, but this just angers Shiki, who yells that it's only sweat. Ignoring him completely, Jin approaches the Blood Titan and activates his technique, creating 2 different chainsaws on his arms. As he does this, he can tell he still hasn't recovered from the damage he took earlier, but he knows that if he runs now, it's over for him. Naito watches him closely, since creating differently shaped objects at the same time is a very advanced technique. This means that in terms of skill and experience, it's clear Jin stands out from the rest. First of all, the only blood manipulation. Whatever a person imagines is sent from their brain to their nerves and blood vessels, taking form in the process. Since it's from the brain, some reflect trauma, like Homar's sister. For others, it reflects tastes or preferences, like Shiki's weapons, and for still others, experiences, like Jin's saws. It is said that through what they create, one can glimpse the life of that person and thus forge unique weapons with their own blood. At some point, this technique evolved into what is now known as Blood Eclipse Liberation, a power that is truly unique to each individual Oni. Jin activates his technique and quickly attacks the Blood Titan, avoiding being crushed, then climbs its arm, cutting its full length with his saws. After that, he leaps to its neck, intending to cut off its head, but the Titan instantly protects itself. Meanwhile, Shiki keeps trying to manipulate his blood, saying he doesn't care what comes out. Watching Jin fight the Titan, he questions again why Jin can manipulate his blood. Despite his frustration, after observing Jin fight for so long, he realizes that all this time Jin has only been creating things to cut. Moreover, as Homar explained, that Blood Titan is a representation of his sister. This all leads him to finally grasp how blood manipulation functions, and he vividly remembers that the last time he manifested his cherished firearms. Shiki smiles because now he knows what to do. On the other side of the fight, Jin leaps into the air, but a sonic attack from the Blood Titan bursts his eardrums, making him bleed from his ears. Naito thinks that's his limit and prepares to step in, but just then, Jin is surprised to see Shiki activating his Blood Eclipse Liberation, calmly aiming a bazooka at the Titan. Seeing he's got it, Naito holds back, wanting to see what he'll do next. Shiki gets ready to fire, saying it feels like the weapon is a part of his own body. The Blood Titan attempts to crush him, but within seconds, Shiki swiftly moves to its blind spot and without hesitation unleashes a barrage of fire. With just one shot, the Titan's body instantly disintegrates, exploding into countless pieces until it's merely a pool of blood on the ground. Both Jin and Naito are in shock after witnessing the power of that shot, and Shiki can't.